Yo, Mark. Can you help me? Like, hold this, like this. Yeah, you know what? Like, give me back. Let's go over there. Danny!
Manny!
It's a pleasure to see you in person.
Yes,
finally.
it's about time, and that was really funky that we saw each other almost
Oh,
immediately
yeah.
after
I
we
have to
linked
tell
in.
that
That's
story.
actually,
So-
please tell. Please.
So
Yeah.
there is 10,000 people, right, here?
About that, yeah.
Yeah. So I get
Not right this second.
I
but
get
yeah.
out, and I'm texting him, when can I catch you? And he's literally going like popping up like Beetlejuice, you know, like 3 times Danny, and boom, he's there.
So I heard you. That's what happened.
Yeah.
Thank you.
At a high level,
Okay.
business-wise, what is the biggest problem that Delta Lake is solving compared to the traditional object storage plus Parquet file?
So from a business level, the key thing that Delta Lake solves is it's simplifying how to do data processing. Now, you're going to ask me immediately, okay, that's very vague. So why don't I give you an example instead, okay? So Comcast, back in 2017's keynote, went ahead and, by using Delta Lake, went from 640 VMs to 64, went from 84 jobs down to 3, okay? Now, do you want to do the same thing? Yes, you do. That's what Delta Lake does for you.
Is it time for the JVM to retire?
I'm not going to answer that question quite yet because, first of all, that's slightly controversial. Second of all, there is reliability, historical reliability of the JVM. Yes, there are definitely issues with it. I'm willing to admit that fact. But by the same token, the reality is there are many production systems that work on the JVM. So I'm not going to say it's time to retire, but it is absolutely time for even the JVM to go ahead and look at some of the efficiencies of languages like Rust and understand if it doesn't start making the necessary changes, there are going to be changes to the way the development world's going to work. And yes, I'm, like we've talked about, an advocate for Rust for exactly that reason.
Cool. Thank you so much, Denis. Enjoy the conference. Sleep a bit still.
No, I'm not going to do that.
You're not going to do that?
I'm not going to do
Okay,
that.
that's
Not till
fine.
afterwards,
That's
but
fine.
thank you.
What is the biggest feature that differentiates Iceberg to the other table formats?
So one of the features that comes out of my head is the hidden partitioning. So basically, with partition evolution, if you have to change something on the table, partitions, you have to worry about bringing back zombie data, or changing really the entire architecture. So with Iceberg hidden partitioning, you don't really need to worry about that, and it kind of separates from the other table formats. So for example, if I have a table partition by date, and if I query by some hour or timestamp, I don't really need to worry about that. So that separates a lot, yeah.
So I heard something interesting. You said zombie data.
Right.
Tell me more about that.
So zombie data is basically a term that we use in industry, whenever you're trying to change a schema or something on a table, and it really brings back some weird kind of data to you that you're not really aware of it. And it's really a terror in the dashboards and the models and the machine learning models.
Andy, it's nice to see a fellow Belgian.
Yeah, man.
On the other side. Still jet lagged?
No, it's okay. So I'm always lagging away. So
Okay, I'm still a bit. What do you think it's still missing in terms of data quality, observability, basics in most of data teams?
So what is missing is, data observability is split in 2 parts. So quality, I may come back to it, but there is the data observable part and there is the data observability platforms, right? In my opinion, every system in the world should become data observable, even without having a data observability platform, right? So that's the piece that I think miss everywhere, right? So every platform nowadays is start adding lineage components exported as APIs, right?
Yeah.
But really, what really misses there is not only you want this platform to export the lineage, but also what does the daylight look like while the lineage were running, because lineage is a process, right?
Yeah.
So they merge data together into an output, right? So what were the data looking like back then when the lineage was running? So this is a piece that is missing in the ecosystem, right? Then comes the data observability platform, which is gathering all this information, right? But that's what's missing. Because when we will be reaching this point where all the different systems will become data observable, right? That something can observe them, then we will have so much information about how the data behaves and how processes are behaving as well, that we will be able to actually generate, right, more data quality observations. Because we will know when the data is wrong or is good, right, without creating a alert fatigue.
Yeah.
So what we miss nowadays is not data quality checks. We miss data that will allow us to generate data quality checks.
So metadata as at the source, basically.
Exactly.
At this conference, the big talk is generative AI, LLMs. How does kind of data quality, data observability fit with this new paradigm of generative AI?
I think it's a huge shift in a way we are looking at how to solve the problems. And at the same time, it opens great opportunities for the companies to, on the keynotes you heard today, how many open source models, small models companies are going to be training and building, and data quality is going to be a paramount there. If you feed in the horrible data, and companies like Databricks, they are lucky, they are actually sitting on pretty good data. Because their customers are dealing with all sort of Excel spreadsheets, legacy data sitting all over the place, where like 70% of data is bad. Like training LLMs on that is not going to be easy task, and that's data quality going to be a big thing. To add to that though, there's another very interesting aspect is LLMs itself, and I really like the keynote session today, where findings of the data quality can feed into that to help you highlight and identify problems sooner.
Anna, it's a pleasure to find you again in person.
Very good to see you.
What is it missing today to bridge the gap between data science and analytics? And by that way, I mean between the ML words and the BI words, or you can even understand it between the Python word and the SQL words.
Yeah.
What's your thought about that?
This time last year, I said in an interview, I think, that by now, those teams would already be working well together, and I was very, very wrong. And what I've learned since then is that data science teams and analytics teams actually are motivated by very different things. And that's why their workflows don't really overlap. Data scientists are application builders. They're focused on iterating towards making something more performant, towards making something more accurate. Analysts are much more concerned with the business outcome and driving decision making, right? And making an impact on the business internally rather than for the customers. And so that translates naturally into different workflows. And I think what's missing for those folks to work with each other isn't really magical tooling, but I think just like APIs, like being able to use the same data and not have to reinvent the wheel. I think like having a semantic layer that is able...
That's a plug. I'm gonna cut that. Yeah, I can agree on the part that we need some common layer to work on base. That's for sure.
Yeah.
But initially, because the goal were different, the tools built for that were different.
Exactly. They're optimizing for different things, and I think that's actually okay.
Matthew, it's a pleasure. Yeah, it's a pleasure to see you. So, fun fact is that when I got into Spark 1.3, which was pretty old, this guy was the only one with research about testing in Scala, when Scala was still a thing. And so, when did you start using Spark? Before the 1.0?
I think I started using, no, I didn't. I was post 1.0, but yeah, definitely, I'm an OG Spark, and I created like one of the earlier testing libraries, so yeah. We were internet friends before we were real life friends.
And now you're on the dark side.
I'm on the dark side, baby.
On the dark side. All right. What is the biggest feature in terms of Databricks or open source Databricks related products, in your opinion, that has been released these past years?
Yeah, one of my favorite features, it's kind of like a sleeper. It's called Photon. It's actually like a fully compliant Spark, well, it's not Spark, it's a C++ query engine that speaks Spark, but it's not Spark. And it's just so performant, it's so fast, and it's so compatible with Spark that people don't even know that they're using it. But yeah, to me, just the performance of Photon is just the big sleeper. That's the amazing feature.
What is it missing for getting a more mass adoption?
I actually think it has mass adoption. It just people don't even know they're using it.
Yeah, behind the scene.
So basically, it's fully compliant APIs
Yeah.
with Spark, and people it just flies, and it saves so much cost and everything, and people just don't even know they're using it.
Let's give credits back to Caesar and all praise for Fountain. Great, you're doing an amazing work with the MLOps community. But at least I just want to say thank you in the name of like the data community and the MLOps people.
I appreciate it.
And you're in Germany, right?
I am. We're holding it down in Germany.
Yeah.
That's it.
Where do you see data engineer helping in the LLM world compared to ML engineer?
Ooh, dude, the data engineer is vital. That's what I'm going to say about, I mean, whether it's traditional machine learning or these new LLMs, just getting the data, moving it around, cleaning it, making sure it's actually where it needs to be, the access for it, all of that. You can't do anything unless you have strong foundations. And who's creating those strong foundations? It's the unsung hero of machine learning, the data engineer.
Unsung hero, I like
Yeah.
that. So what do you think is missing today to get like this adoption in the LLM world?
I don't know if there's anything missing. I think it's just so new. We're still trying to figure out what's the best way of doing it.
And who is needed to do it?
To figure that out,
Yeah.
the data engineer. No, I
course.
think it's really good if a data engineer understands the fundamentals of how LLMs work and
Yeah.
what needs to happen. I mean, if you familiarize yourself with vector databases for like a day, you're gonna get a step ahead and you're gonna understand how and what
Yeah.
is necessary.
Yeah.
When people say LLMs, there's one way of looking at it where it's like just hit an API and you can build stuff on top of that, like on top of the OpenAI
Yeah.
API. And there, potentially like the data engineer isn't actually that interesting of a piece
Yeah.
in that because you're not trying to bring your own special data to the party.
Yeah.
But as soon as you prove out some business value with OpenAI's API, then you can go and you say, all right, let's actually make this legit with our data. Then it goes back to that data engineer it's a necessity. It's not
Yeah.
a nice to have.
You specifically work in the banking industry, and so that's super regulated, probably has a lot of legacy systems. What are the challenges you face in dealing with that type of architecture?
Yeah, to your point, it usually is a heavily regulated industry, and my bank specifically, we tout ourselves on our security, and so whenever FDIC comes to us, we always get like passing with flying colors because we are so security focused. Our CIO comes from a cyber background, our CISO comes from a cyber background, and so everybody is always thinking of data governance first and put security at the table. And so for any architecture or data solution, that does present more challenges up front because you do have to consider all of the different possibilities of how data might leak out, how you could be hacked, how you might be audited or checked on later. And so I actually worked in healthcare extensively before as well. And I would say banking is much more heavily regulated than healthcare in data, which is great from a financial standpoint, but a little concerning on the HIPAA component.
Yeah.
But I think both industries, they serve as a great learning ground for data governance, security, compliance, and being able to build products that always keep security in mind.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Florian, how are you doing?
Hi, thanks. Thank you. I'm fine, and you?
So now you're not my boss anymore, right?
Yeah.
So I can tell
It's been a long
anything
time.
about you, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't impact my promotion. So you've been working as a data manager and then went full IC as a staff engineer. What do you think staff engineer can learn from engineering manager?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think the first point will be it's always about people. When you're thinking about staff data engineer, we are thinking about technical, how you can improve things, solving or having software engineering convention. But often, most of the time, it's people. You have to take care of the team, know what will be the projection, what they have been done before, and take this as an input. The other point is more about the roadmap and the stakeholders management. You need to take that into consideration where you are thinking about providing a help or designing a new system, because it's really important. It's not only about technological perspective, it's also about how we can take the business input and create the best solution.
But yeah, I feel like the step between senior engineer to staff engineer is really the soft skills gap, right?
Yes, it's really true. You have to use your leadership skills as well. When you are an engineering manager, you have to gather people together to have a target and reach the target together. And I think as a staff is the same. You have to use this kind of soft skill to be able to empower people and not to become a bottleneck by introducing you as an expert. Something I really like to say as well is the fact that it's really complicated to create simple things. Yeah. And this is my role right now, is to improve the solution by not having a complex architecture, but a simple one that works. I think it's really important. Even if you are a staff data engineer or a principal one, you have to find something that works and could be incremental without having the data guy helping every time.
So you've been at the Databricks Summit with a panel about open source. What are the major projects of TikTok around open source? Can you share a bit?
Yeah, so let me actually talk about open source entity. Right now I'm working on building a function for an open source for ByteDance. Okay. So when we say building a function, that means we are going to have like a center of excellence where we build the strategy, principles. So it's easier for our internal teams to open source technology outside, and we can do external developer advocacy.
So we should expect more open source project coming from TikTok.
So I already am working on Byteconity, which is a open source data warehouse.
Okay.
And CloudWego, which is a microservices RPC framework. Wow. So these are the two projects to start with. I already have a blog on it, so if you want to check out, yeah, we can drop the links, you know?
Yeah, I'll drop the links. Go to the bar because I'm standing right, but the bar is just on the other side, right? So he's over there. Annette, it's a pleasure to have you. I mean, it's really an honor because I think you were one of my first content supporter when I started writing on Medium. Kind of supports when you start, and it's really nice to have such a support, and yeah, great content over there every week.
Great, I still remember the conversation that you were just on the bridge of whether we should do whether you should video or podcast and all the things.
Yeah.
I'm really glad you're not the favorite news reporter of the data world.
Yeah, that's cool. Thanks. And how many newsletters have you been putting out there?
We're at like 136 now.
Wow. So I cannot write that much. Question for you, is data contract just schema?
Schema is one part of it. Like if you take data contract or a data contract is all about some kind of a specification where a data exchange been happening from one place to another.
Yeah.
So data contract is in twofold. One is the structural guarantee of the system, and then the behavioral guarantee of it. The structural guarantee comes with your, okay, this is my schema, this is my data types, and this is my tag system going to look like, who owns it, what is the description around it, and the administrative side of it. And then, okay, this is all defined structurally. Now, is it behave, what structure is specified? So a data contract system typically will evaluate like the structural integrity and the behavioral integrity is satisfied when the producers send the data to the...
Pleasure to see you.
Yeah, I know.
Streaming around the conference.
That's what it is. Yes, I'm streaming around the conference.
All right. I have a question about streaming because it's been a challenging topic in the data world these past years. And we still see the streaming pipeline words and the batch words.
Yes.
Is it always going to be this duality, or how do you see it moving forwards?
So it's interesting. I think I'm excited to see what happens, right? But in my mind, I think that these two worlds that we treat as sort of separate, when in reality they're not actually, right? We have the idea of like micro batching, which is effectively kind of streaming, and then there's like all that overlap. And I think we're going to keep seeing more and more overlap. but we're always going to have use cases that work better on one or the other, right? We're always going to have batch and streaming. There was a really, really great panel that Chris Jenkins hosted at Current last year. That was, I think the title was like, if streaming is the answer, why are we still batching, right?
And plug in for his podcast, right?
Yes. Exactly. And so I think people should check that out because it's a really interesting conversation on exactly that. Like, what do we think is going to happen? And yeah, I think they're always going to exist.
Okay, cool. Sanjeev.
Yes, sir.
At the Mother Duck party, right? Let me show the audience.
Yeah.
So there is a lot of people there, and I'm taking the time because you did the Snowflake Summit.
Correct.
And then you fly here in San Francisco.
Yes.
So what are the insights of the both conference that you can tell us?
Yeah. So let's start with Databricks. You know, human memory is very small compared to LLMs. You know, so it's all about LLMs here at Databricks. Also, to some extent, at Snowflake.
Yeah.
But here in Databricks, you can see the engineering focus. It is phenomenal. It's data, AI, all in the cloud, notebooks, LLMs, file format, table formats, data federation. Basically, what Databricks is trying to do is unify the whole world into their platform. Exactly like Snowflake. What Snowflake is doing is reverse. Snowflake is coming from the data cloud side, and so they're saying, run any application you want using containers. So to me, that was a very big learning at Snowflake Summit.
So more going to the engineering side of things on the Snowflake side.
Both of them are addressing developers, but not just developers, they're also addressing kind of the citizen roles. You know, people like, I was blown away when I learned that there is an English SDK for Apache Spark.
But that's what we speak, right?
Yeah,
I'm not going to hold you more. Enjoy the party. Zach, we meet again, but that's a secret. There is something else, right? I just meet for you for the first time, let's say. Okay. Okay.
We'll go with that. Yeah.
So you've been around the Data+AI Summit, right? What was the thing that you said, I saw it coming, and the other thing I said, I didn't think about that?
Yeah, for sure. Okay, I think the thing I saw coming, everything about LLMs, I don't know, I feel like the ChatGPT LLM stuff is like, everyone has just been talking about that like every single day, every single hour for like the last 6 months. And so it's like, I'm glad it was there because it's like, if it wasn't there, I think like it'd be missing the moment, right, a little bit. But like, it was cool. I think that like, I mean, I thought that was really cool. I think but there was some applications of LLMs that I thought were interesting. Like there's like this new LLM that like is for Apache Spark, where you can like write English and it turns it into a Spark job. Yeah, it's like English SDK for Apache Spark, and I was like, all right, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Like, and I think that one will be something that will really speed things up quite a bit, you know?
What's your plan for you next? You're launching your bootcamp, right?
Yeah, I'm literally launching the bootcamp tomorrow. It's gonna be awesome, and then it starts on July 17th, and it's gonna be 6 weeks. It's gonna be very intense. It's gonna be very awesome, and I'm really excited to like teach people and like really grow and get this going. It's gonna be great. So great.
Well, good luck with that, and thank you for coming.
Yeah,
that's your round.
Glad to be here.